Great. Well, welcome. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, Mastering Multi-Shop Ownership. We've got two of the industry's foremost experts, plus me, here. So Greg Brunch, who is the CEO of Transformers Institute, and JR Luna, who is a preeminent multi-shop owner within the industry. So we're gonna, the primary format of this session is going to be Q&A discussion. We're gonna welcome questions in from attendees. But what we're going to do is we're gonna start off, we've asked Greg to spend 5, 7, 8 minutes on giving us an overview and giving us his view and his philosophy, tapping into his experience about what it takes in order to be a multi-shop owner. What's the culture behind that? What type of vision do you have to have? Okay, then we'll launch into like I said, a bunch of discussion, a bunch of questions, and then at the end, we're fortunate enough that Greg, we're going to go back to Greg. We'll invite Fernando in, and also of Transformers Institute, and they're going to lead us through a 15-minute, so very shortened but still impactful version of how to create a vision for a multi-shop and for your organization. So with that, Greg, maybe why don't you take it away?
All right, John, thank you so much. Thank you to the AutoVitals team for inviting me and putting this on. And just so people know, I'm not as active in that side of it, but I also own 6 auto repair shops myself. So my primary time is over here with Transformers, but I've got a great team that runs my 6 shops here in Colorado. So I want to start, and again, this is, I know that obviously the title was Mastering, and there's no way you can master it in the 30 to 45 minutes that we have here, but I want to give some highlights here. And people ask all the time, like, well, I can't even run 1 store. How do I run 2 stores, right? And the 2 stores go, I got 2 stores. How do you run 6 stores? And me, I got 6 stores. One of our coaches ran 25 stores. I'm like, man, how'd you do that, right? And then it just, goes up. But obviously it can be done, right? As we all have the same amount of time and day. How does Warren Buffett run, billion-dollar enterprises, right? And it's mentality, people. We're going to talk just a few minutes about that. But I like sharing this slide. I grabbed it out of one of my other presentations, talking about the 3 business personalities. And so I know JR and I both started out as automotive technicians. And so understanding, that an automotive technician, we think day to day, we think hour to hour, right? And how many hours did I flag today? What's today's production? We think about exchanging our labor for dollars, right, per hour. And so we're in a very reactive environment every day. As cars come and go, we react to every single one of them in a different way. One oil change turns into an engine job, and one timing belt turns into something else that may get towed out of the shop, right? And we have to be very, very flexible in there. And then, again, JR and I both moved up into the management role. So now we're running a shop. Still very reactive. Still, instead of thinking day to day, we think week to week, we think month to month. What do we do for the month? What were our margins? Things like that. And so we're starting to think strategically and tactically, not just getting out of the technician mindset. And then both JR and I made the journey to go, hey, I think I can accomplish more from the entrepreneurial stage, right? Which is now we can be strategic. We can be visionary. We can think about our business on a much bigger scale. Instead of working in the business, we work on the business, really get an understanding of finances and equity. And there's a lot to unpack there. JR and I had different training and different education to get to where we're at. But I think it was understanding that even though we were good at the other 2, it was like, man, there's more that I can accomplish in this industry. So I bring this up because, you need to decide in the audience, like, where are you at? And there's not right or wrong. It's just the different personalities that you bring to it. And it doesn't mean that I still don't do technical work, that I still don't do managerial work. Same with a lot of the shop owners we work with. But what is the overall arcing gifting that you've got, right? And if you've got that entrepreneurial spirit, you could probably accomplish a lot more than what you have. But you got to get out of the day-to-day operations and into that strategic entrepreneurial mindset. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. I like to show this slide, and I'm forgive me, don't give me a bad review for speaking too fast, because I have a short amount of time that I want to really get a couple of strong points out to you guys. And we're gonna highlight on this one, right? The role of a CEO, and really that's what we're all working on. John, you've already got that title, is setting the strategic vision for the company. And people go, yeah, whatever. But that is so important, as people know, hey, where are we going with this thing, right? Am I hitched to a wagon that's going to take me into the future that I want to be a part of? The second part, attract, hire, train, and retain the best talent available. Now, you notice I say you don't have to be the best technician anymore. You don't have to be the best service advisor anymore. No, you got to be really good at attracting, hiring, training, and retaining the best talent. Keeping abreast of future threats and opportunities. And that could be, from the technician shortage to electric cars to everything else, right? We're in a very, very fluid, changing industry right now. And I like to put Richard Branson's quote in here: if people aren't calling you crazy, you aren't thinking big enough. I'm sure JR and I have both been called crazy. You want to do another shop? You want to do what? But that's, it's kind of the fun of it, but yeah, you're going to get some persecution potentially. And then Jack says this: if you think small, you'll stay small. And I think we want to touch on that. And especially with, I love having JR on this panel, because, one of the things I've seen JR grow in the last, 3 or 4 years that I've really got to know him very well, is he continues to expand his thinking and understanding what is possible instead of thinking small. And I think people in this industry are going to be in for a rude awakening over the next 10 years if they continue to go with, hey, I'll keep it small and keep it all mentality. I don't think they're going to survive. That's my prediction. So, and maybe that will resonate with somebody here in the group. So, I always ask people, what is their vision? And I know this is not easy. Human nature, really, if you think about it, up until, in 1860, the average lifespan of a male in the United States was 39 years old, right? So a lot of for thousands of years have been in survival mode, right? Hey, how am I going to get the next meal? How am I going to get, food and shelter? So we're at the bottom there. So human evolution has been very difficult for people to go, man, I don't know. It's like a blank slate if I try and look 3, 5, 10, even 20 years into the future. And you notice the forefathers, a lot of them lived in their 80s, which was twice as long as everybody else in America at the time. Well, they had vision. They were thinking 20, 30 years in the future, and they knew they needed to be around and be part of that. So very, very important. So, for a lot of us, right, you work on the business, not in it. These are just examples, right? You're making the money you deserve. Your employees are happy, engaged, and loyal. We all know that if you don't have that, you're in trouble. Maybe you want to take 6 weeks off a year and you don't have to worry about your business. Okay. You're investing in your community. Hey, I want to support the high schools, the junior highs. Maybe you want to support the automotive industry and really work on an apprentice program and work with the schools around you. There's all kinds of things that we can invest in our communities in. Right? We're prepared for the changes ahead of us, right? ADAS, hybrid, electric, all this stuff that's coming at us. They're all going to break. As my friend Chris Chesney says, if man made it, it's going to break, right? So don't think that all these cars are going to be trouble free and we're going to be out of business, right? They're going to need different, but they need service and repair, just like the cars we're working on today. And then you're building a business that someone will pay for. Too many shop owners have put 20, 30, 40 years into a business that is really not worth anything, because once they leave and their lease is up, they have a bunch of used equipment. So, I know for me that, I don't have any immediate plans on selling, but when I do, I want to get a paycheck out of it. I don't want to put an ad on Craigslist to sell my used lifts, right? I want to build something that has value. And then this is really important, right? You love what you do and you know why you do it. And we're all going to have tough days. Automotive repair business is tough. I don't care if you're in the software side, you're in the coaching and consulting side, if you're in the running of the repair shops, man, we all have hard days. And if we don't know what's driving us and what's getting us up in the morning, and we don't have that bigger picture to look forward to, right? It's easy to get distracted and potentially even give up. So I think that vision is very well overlooked when it comes to scaling and growing a business. And then, I just want to touch on a business must be systematized. The very first book I read was from Michael Gerber, a business book, not very first book, business book, over 25 years ago. And he was big on organization and systems and processes. And that's not my natural gifting. That is not, I like to, hey, let's throw it against the wall and see what sticks. But if you're not that person, you got to have people on your team that can say, hey, slow down, let's get this documented. And let's make sure that we're not, there's consistency, right? That's a big Achilles heel to multi-shop owners is they don't have everything written out or videoed out or whatever. And so they lack consistency in their shop. And then they wonder why they're having all kinds of issues, both on the employee side and on the customer side. And then Vern Harnish wrote the famous book, Scaling Up and the Rockefeller Habits. Letting go and trusting others to do things well is one of the most challenging aspects of being a leader in a growing organization. So, for us control freaks out there, it can be really hard to let go and go, but Craig, you don't understand. Nobody can diagnose as well as I can. Nobody can treat customers the way you can. Nobody can whatever as I can. And you're right. They probably can't. But you've got to be able to work past that and work through people, even though they may do it better, worse, or different than the way you do it. But that's, man, you talk about, breaking down some walls with shop owners. This is a really, really important piece of it. So, and of course, part of the systems and processes is AutoVitals, right? You've got a system and a process methodology that, I'll let JR speak to it, the dashboard that he can look over globally over his organization and in very short amount of time, see where the KPIs and see what to address. So if you're not leveraging technology like AutoVitals to go, hey, what's happening in my shops when you can't physically be in 4, 5, 6 places at once? You guys already, I think most of the listeners on here probably have AutoVitals or are considering it. Like, man, it's one of those secret weapons. Is it the only one? No, but man, you better have something like this in your arsenal if you're going to be successful. And going back to my friend JR here, JR and we talked a few times, and this was just right as the pandemic was happening. Bosch had a conference down in Cancun, Mexico, and I gave a presentation there called "Is Your Comfort Zone Killing You?" And JR attended the class, and he came up to me afterwards. It's like, hey, I know we've talked a few times, and I've probably ignored a few of your phone calls, but I really do want to talk to you about, what do you do? And, I feel like I've outgrown some of the training and teaching and groups that I've been in, and I want to take myself and my business to the next level. And so, JR and I partnered up. He became part of Transformers and, started working on the fundamentals and where his head was at and what his plan, what his vision was, what his dreams was. And you'll see the shop behind his head there is also the same shop in my picture. And I grew up in the same area that JR's shops are at. And so when he told me on a coaching call, he says, hey, this shop came up, Ojai Valley Imports for sale. What do you think? And he told me all about it. And I know Ojai and I know the area. And I told him, man, JR, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. My parents still live out there. That'll give me an excuse to get out there. And so JR got out of his comfort zone, went and signed his life away on some big debt and, remodeled and did a ton of work. And it's a beautiful, profitable shop now. And I'm so proud of JR, where he's grown as a businessman, as a leader. He's got an amazing family. He's got an amazing support system with his wife, Rita. I've toured his shops. I've talked to his employees and the loyalty that he's established there. It's just incredible. And I'm excited to be part of his life and to see, he's just getting started, right? He's got a lot of room to grow his business. And he's the kind of guy that you have to have that growth mentality, being a lifelong learner to be a successful multi-store owner. So that's my quick, I don't know if I kept that under 7 minutes. I wasn't looking at the clock, but
all good. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great segue point. I mean, JR, I'd love to hear a little bit more from you of how you went from what mentality and what were you thinking about? What was the decision point like going from being a single shop owner to a multi-shop owner, going to 2 and then 3, and then I know your journey has been has been kind of up and to the right, as they say, once you made that decision. But take us back to, how you decided, like, how did you know you were, I think a lot of, there's probably two types of folks who are on this call. There's single shop owners who are considering moving in the multi-shop direction. And then there's multi-shop owners who are, wondering, gee, should I go bigger, or how do I do this better? Or, how do I continue to iterate on this? So yeah, maybe if you could just take us back to when you made that decision to get a second shop and third, and how you knew that you were the right person to do that.
Well, thank you for inviting me to the podcast, first of all. And when I started working, I started working for Goodyear many years ago in my teens. And one of the person that I admire was my district manager. He was one of the owners, and he would come by, and he was just a pleasant, professional, just really nice guy. And I admired him. So I wanted to be like him at one point. And so when I started my shop, I had no doubt in my mind that I wanted to be like that guy that I admire. And so I wanted to emulate what he did, go from shop to shop and lead and motivate, train. And he treated everybody with respect, and he was the guy that everybody wanted to hang around. He was the guy that you wanted to go out to lunch with and just hang out. So when I started my shop, there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to go multi-shop as soon as possible. And I just had that in me since the very beginning, and I had this vision of doing it. I was lucky enough to have some great mentors in the beginning. And still today, I have some great mentors and transformers. But just setting up the vision, and I knew early on that success was not something that I was going to chase. Success was something that I needed to attract by becoming a better person, by becoming a better leader, by becoming a better business owner. And so I started reading books, personal development, just training in shop numbers, knowing what's going on, knowing my numbers, knowing what moves numbers, learning what motivates my team. All those things just plays a key role in what we do today. So that's, to me, today, if I was to tell you what's the secret sauce to going multi-shop, it's hanging out with people that you want to be like. And that was just, that enhances your mind and gives you more possibilities. I can tell you, I was very comfortable as a one shop owner. I made a decent amount of money. I was comfortable, but I also know that prosperity breeds mediocrity. It kind of just leaves you there. You're like, oh, I'm doing well enough. Why should I do more? And that can be a trap.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of great nuggets in there, right? So, surround yourself with mentors, find people that you want to emulate. The other nice follow-up benefit of that is then you've always got people to go to with questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Would you say, were you nervous? Were you concerned? Like, what were your biggest concerns? If there was one thing that would have held you back, but then you had to overcome going from single shop to multi-shop, what would that or those things be?
Well, I was shaking. I don't think if you don't get nervous when you're making a deal, you're just not human. Of course, I was doubtful and nervous. Right. Like, that's just I still get nervous and doubtful. But some of the things that I had to overcome is my self-doubt. Like, man, can I do this? Am I doing the right thing? Am I jeopardizing what I've worked so hard for just one more step? And then around you, there's a lot of people that will throw negative nuggets at you and don't want you to leave the good old boy club and just be like us, stay comfortable. Right. So overcoming some of those negativities, whether it's from your family or from your friends or your coworkers, that was probably the biggest thing, that all those little seeds can spring out in your head, whether you should go on or not. And that was the biggest overcoming. The rest of it, preparing for, let me back up a little bit. To make sure that you can go into a multi-shop, you got to have some key things in place. You got to have the key personnel. You got to be able to leave your shop. Some people say a month, some people say 3 months alone, and make sure that it runs properly without you. that it carries that culture, that it carries that vision that you had set out in the beginning, that people are following procedures, that people are following out your traditions and your beliefs. All those things need to be in place before you even consider what's going on next. And all that comes with being a great leader, a great communicator. There's just so much to do before you even think of a second location, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've got to know that you are committed to the cause. Like you are committed, right? There's a lot. I mean, there's thousands, tens of thousands, really, really fantastic single shop owners who are completely committed to the cause and have developed incredible businesses and incredible operations, right? But I imagine there are a lot of things that you can quote unquote get away with at a single shop that will get exposed immediately and go from being little issues or little challenges on the single shop level to being big issues, or maybe even killers at the multi-shop level. Does that seem right?
Absolutely. Your weakness is going to get exposed greatly. And that's one of the great things about joining a coaching company like Transformers, which I'm a part of now, and has been great for me. And one of the things that it does is that if you're a current multi-shop owner that is struggling or wants to continue to grow, they have the tools for you. Yeah. Or if you're a single store operator and wants to think of going forward to multi-shop, they have the tools for you. Right. And they have the right people to hang around and be able to think and see the vision on the mindset. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was buying Ohio Valley Imports, I took some of my top managers to see it and some other friends in the industry. And Ohio Valley Imports was not pretty. It was very disorganized. You open the doors and it was basically like things were going to fall off the shop because they were so stacked with just 50 years of crap. I had one guy tell me, JR, if you're having a midlife crisis, go get a Corvette, man. And to me, I didn't see that. I saw it like it is kind of today. I had it all organized and humming and businesses and people coming out and employees with their shirts tucked in and happy customers and employees. That's what I saw. But somebody else sees reality and sees how much of a tax, how much of a burden, and how much of work we need to put in this shop. And so there's two visions, right? What it could be and what it needs to happen. And luckily, I saw the later one.
Well, yeah, that's right. Some people see problems and others people see opportunities.
That's right.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, going back to what you were saying earlier, it's funny. I've found the same thing over and over. I mean, being an entrepreneur, it's interesting because you often have to be able to do two things well, but that are very contradictory to each other. So for example, to be an entrepreneur, you've really got to be able to seek input. You've got to be able to get coaching. You've got to be able to rely on other people. You've got to really value other people's opinions. But at the same time, you've got to be able to avoid the negativity. You've got to be able to ignore it, right? You've got to be able to put those doubts out of your head and just plow forward. Like there will always be days that you feel like, man, this thing, if I look at my career, the one thing I would say that's very different today for me than it was, let's say 20, 25 years ago, is that 20, 25 years ago, a big problem would present itself. And I think, man, is this the end? And now I just think there's a solution to this. We'll figure it out. Like, right. We're not going to go out of business over it. It's actually probably not even going to be that big of a deal. We just need a little time to figure it out, and we'll do a couple of other good things, and it'll work out. You've got to have that ability, right? Absolutely,
and especially surrounding yourself with people that are positive in your view and share and share your vision, or at least have a common goal. I was very lucky, and I got to credit my wife Rita for always believing in me. If she would have said something negative or put some doubt into me, I would have doubted too, and I would have stopped. But she still believes in me. She knows I'm crazy, and she's a little crazy too. Then because she
supports her craziness.
Yeah.
No doubt she's a big part of the success of the business as well. So you mentioned tools, process, things like that. What do you think talk a little bit about the importance of having great process, having it so that you're able to replicate it across a bunch of different locations, kind of how you go about doing that, maybe, specifically what some of those are.
Sure. Well, I believe culture trumps strategy any day of the week, but it is very hard to duplicate culture when you have many locations. So it is the processes and procedures that we have written down and we expect people to follow that are going to be able to duplicate that experience of the customer. We do not want customers to have a employee roulette, that they get a certain type of service in this location and a different feeling in another location. So we want all of them to be as uniform as possible. And having those tools, having that manual per se, with the culture, as much as I can inject it into the stores with my limited amount of time that I have for each of them, it is really a key of what we do. And that is why obviously every point of sale system has your KPIs, your average RO, how many customers, how many new customers, and so on. But one of the fascinating things, and something that we cannot duplicate with a point of sale system with AutoVitals, is the fact that we can see how many pictures were taken, how many pictures were edited, how many inspections were sent, what's our inspection rate. We can even see what this technician recommends all the struts in the shop, and this technician he's going to recommend a brake fluid in every car that comes in. And we can have a conversation about that. There's just an invaluable amount of information and data that is in AutoVitals. Of course, point of sale system has a lot of great surface things, but when you get to down onto the production and where those inspections are coming from, which is the seeds of all our money that comes in, those inspections, AutoVitals has a lot more under the hood diagnostic tools.
Awesome.
If I can speak to that a little bit too, on a high level, people go, well, there's a whatever, I probably shouldn't name names, but there's a XYZ automotive franchise across the street, and they suck, right? I get their comebacks all the time, and customers aren't happy, and and they have all their systems and processes documented, right? It's a franchise, right? They legally have to have all their systems and processes. So I think there's a balance, and I love that JR brought up culture, because you've got what we call at Transformers, we call the relationship model, which is we're training our people to build a rapport and a relationship with the clients. We want them to be lifelong customers. We want them to refer their family and friends and their kids, and we want to know them. And then you've got the transactional type of shops, mostly the franchises or the big organizations that, hey, we buy 3, get 1 free tires, or we got this, or we got that, right? People are coming in because they're open 7 days a week. They're coming in because, they see the big banner on a tire sale and they need tires. And they don't seem to emphasize as much training on the customer trust and rapport, and they got turnover, right? So you may not see, oh, John was great last time I went there, and now some guy named Charlie and he was rude to me, right? So I think as the industry is evolving, and we understand how important, and this is any industry, right? How important customer service is, how important that relationship model is. I think the journey that JR and myself and the other multi-store people that we work with, we're forging ahead in a tougher model that is going to take more and more investment into the culture if we're going to have a scalable relationship model versus just a transactional, hey, people come here because I got the cheapest tires in town. And I think about companies like, let's say, the Ritz-Carlton, Chick-fil-A, right? Lexus, companies that are known for a high level of customer service. Well, when they say, well, the owner tells me, well, Greg, I can't grow because I don't trust that we take such good care of our customers that I don't think I can duplicate that. And you may be right to some degree, but you can duplicate a lot more than you think. But it's going to take a lot heavier lifting to build culture, investing in that training, people understanding your vision. Why are we doing this, right? And you've seen it successful, right? The Ritz-Carlton, the owners of the Ritz is not in every Ritz-Carlton, right? The owner of every Lexus dealer is Mr. Lexus, right? That it is possible, but it's not easy. It takes strong leadership, and it takes strong culture, and investing in people, and having that vision painted, and having the systems and processes documented that they can follow and allow that level of consistency. It's not one or the other. It is both. And that is, oh, I'm so sorry. That is a lot of work, heavy lifting to do, but man, the rewards can be incredible.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think I would, to tie a few of these things together, there's no doubt that process is really important. Consistency, to have great tools that's going to support that process. But in the end, great tools and great process really means nothing if you don't have a commitment to them. And the only way that you'll have a commitment to them is through culture, right? So while you really cannot become a successful multi-shop owner unless you have great process, you have great tools in place. But if you don't have the culture to commit to them, right, both in terms of the discipline to ensure that, you know, everybody in the organization across all the different locations is following the process, is using the tools, is following the best practices, then it's not going to mean anything, right? And you've got to, it's not only discipline to do it, but you've got to inspire people to do it also. They want to share in the success of the company, of the organization, of their particular location, right? Absolutely. They want to invest not only in themselves, but also in the success of the location. And in order to drive all of that, I think it's important for shop owners to know, whether you are a single shop owner considering multi-shop, or a multi-shop wondering, how do I do this more successfully or continue to expand? It really comes down to commitment on your part. Commitment to developing yourself, to be a great leader. Commitment to following through. And you know, when someone is not following what you've asked them to do, or are not, you know, following tools or following the best practices, it's to actually stick with it and to encourage them and motivate them and to stay on top of them to do it. Right. And those, you know, those things are difficult. I mean, you're working really hard. You got a lot of pressure, family life, you got all those things. It's easy to just kind of brush that off. It's easy. It's way easier. There's an easy path, right? Usually doing nothing or saying nothing, or not being a pain when you need to, or not being inspiring when you need to. Like, that's way easier. And you really have to genuinely be committed to your future success, the future success of the business, and then obviously to the people who are working for you. I think that's, you know, to me, that really kind of ties a lot of it together. JR, does that kind of, I've learned a lot of this stuff from you and from folks like you. So does that kind of resonate?
Absolutely. My motto is that everybody should win in every transaction. The customer, the community, our employees, and the house needs to win a little bit so we can continue to grow, to be able to train, all those things. And when you're genuine with your people, I get happier when one of my team members buys a house than probably if I bought a house. You know, like when somebody goes on vacation and they share that with me, that I was a little bit part of it. Right. Man, I get so excited. It's a win for me as well. Right. So I want to participate in that. I want to be a part of that, because I know that a strong team, it's equal to its weakest link. And we want to grow everybody. We want everybody to be happy and be content and have a job for a very long time, doing something they love and contributing to a cause.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Makes a ton of sense. Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm being respectful of the audience's time. It's just about 30 minutes after the hour. So Greg, I'd love to turn it over to you. And were we inviting Fernando onto the call? Do I have that correct?
Yes, if he's...
You do have that correct, and I just invited him to be promoted up to a panelist.
Oh, look at that.
Awesome.
Congratulations, Fernando.
And there he is.
Yeah,
So,
if anybody needs to jump off, that's our company's number and my email address. I'll circle back to that, but I know some people are only allowed at a certain amount of time. So if you want to learn more about what we do, love to connect with you. So just leave that up there for a second. Of course, you can find us at transformersinstitute.com as well. All right, cool beans. So, you know, we talked about vision, right? And how important that is. And people go, man, Greg, I just don't know where to start. And so I wanted to give this template. And if anybody would like these questions, because there's no way we're going to get through and be able to, like, you know, you're not going to copy them all down and answer them right here, but I wanted to give you a template to get a vision started for where you want to take your company. And this could be a 4-hour exercise, or it could be a 24-hour exercise, depending on, what you've already accumulated in your brain there. So, so number one, right, the purpose and values. What are the core purpose of your organization? What values and principles guide its actions and decisions? So like earlier, we were talking about the relationship model. Like, one of my guiding principles, like, we're not going to get away from that. We're not going to become a transactional company. We're going to continue to be a relationship company. And what does that mean, right? We're going to do things with ethics, no matter what it costs us, right? Those are values. Those are guiding principles. We're not going to, I love there was a quote from the CEO of Southwest Airlines. They go, man, how do you get everybody to be so nice? And he says, well, we don't train people to be nice. We hire nice people. Right. So those are, again, values and principles that guide those decisions. And every time there's a question, we go back to it and go, okay, does the business decision we're making, does it line up with what our purpose and values are? Your time frame, right? That when we put our goals out, if we just put a goal with no end date, it's just a dream. One day I'd like to go to Italy. Well, okay, open up your calendar for 2025 and take off April, because April's always a horrible month, and just say, I'm going to be in Italy for a month, right? If you do that, you're going to get there, right? But if you don't, it'll be, man, one day, I wish before I got in this wheelchair, I would have gone to Italy, right? So, and it's all up to you, right? So people having 3 years, 5 years, and I'm not going to lie to you, I struggle with the 10, the 15, 20 years out. That's a long time. And I look back 20 years ago, I had no idea that I would be where I was at 20 years ago. It wasn't my vision, right? So, but it has helped expand where I want to be, now that I understand the power of a vision and writing it down and begin to visualize that. Organizational identity. How would you describe your organization's identity? Consider aspects, culture, brand, reputation, unique selling points. Do you just want to be another shop just like everybody else down the street, or do you want something to be different about what you do? And I know it's hard, right? Because we all want to do a front brake job, right? We all want to do the water pump and timing belt. But what is that organizational identity? What makes that different? What do you want your reputation to be? You want to be the reputation for the buy 3, get 1 free. We're the cheapest place in town to get your car fixed. Do you want to be the premium brand in town? Do you want to be the Chick-fil-A where we get people in and out the fastest? Do you want to be the specialists in certain makes and models, right? All those things need to be thought through as you create your identity, right? And we're going through this exercise of Transformers. Who's our identity, right? What's the customers we want to serve? What does our brand look like as we're growing it as well? Market position. How do you differentiate yourself from the competitors? What makes you stand out? And everybody says the same thing. Oh, we have great customer service. We operate with honesty, integrity, and we have ASE certified technicians. Everybody says that. Okay. Now maybe that's true for you, and it is not true for the guy across the street, but he's going to say the same thing. So what can you do to communicate a market position that does differentiate? And one thing that I found, the true, what I call the transformational shops, the people that really are doing this for the right reasons, one of the differentiating things is they do invest in their communities, right? Everybody says, oh, we support our community, whatever. Like, what are you doing, right? And I know, JR, you've done things, giving away cars, oil changes for single moms. I mean, there's a lot of things that will differentiate yourself and supporting different things within your community. Products and services, again, what are you going to offer? How does that benefit your customer? What problems are you trying to solve for your customer? And this goes, it can go deeper, because what I see is a lot of technician run businesses. So especially if it was started with a technician, or it's a fear-based owner that says, well, if I do anything against my technicians, they're all going to leave and I'm not going to have a business. And they're right. We all know there's maybe a little bit of truth to that, but is our business model to take care of our technicians and their proclivities, or is it about being convenient to what the customer wants, and for the shop to make money? And I hate to say this, but a lot of technician run shops don't make any money because they see that lens, you know, like the first slide I talked about, the technician lens versus the business person lens. What do you want your customer experience to look like? When we had our summit, and by the way, thank you guys. AutoVitals was one of our key sponsors. We had John Julius there, who's the guru of customer service, and he talked about the customer journey. That was one of our breakout sessions, was the customer journey. Every single touch point, is it a positive, is it a negative, is it a neutral, and how do we increase that? And so, you know, how much are you talking about the customer experience? How often are you talking to your customers about what that customer experience looks like? I was just on a meeting here this morning, found out that I think it was Fernando, was it 82% of customers want to pick their cars up after you're already closed? Right? Are we set up for that? You know, how do we make that convenient? What is that customer experience going to look like? Team and culture, right? JR talked about, what kind of team and culture do you envision with your organization? How are we going to attract it? So I'm out there looking for a job and I meet JR, right? He's in his early 40s, right? Going, man, this guy is, he's going places, he's growing. He's got a great culture. He's got a great reputation, man. I think I can move up in this organization. But hold on, I got another interview. And that's with this guy that's, you know, 67 years old. He's got crap all over the shop and he just needs a mechanic to fix cars, right? Like, what's this guy going to happen, right? He's going to die of a heart attack in the shop and I'm going to be out of a job, right? There's no future in that. So, you know, painting that picture, painting that vision of where you want to go with it. And you don't have to be perfect, right? But having the vision going, this is where we're going. That's really important. Financial success, right? What are your goals and projections and how are you going to get there? Having that roadmap. You know, you can't get there if you don't know those numbers, right? So maybe that's somebody that's got to go, well, I don't even know how to do that. All right, let's take a step back and maybe this project's going to take a little bit longer. What positive impact do you envision your organization making in the world? How are you going to contribute to society, to our industry? Lord knows we need shop owners to invest in our industry, right? We need to invest in the next generation coming up. We need to invest in technology. We need to invest in freaking working together and stop tearing each other down, right? We need to know who our quote unquote competitors are in town and not, doesn't have to be this dog eat dog of, you know, even if one shop screwed up, man, have each other's backs. Like, we're independent repair shops. And if we continue to be so independent, that's what's that'll be the ruin of us, that we don't, you know, go to industry events. We don't local and regional, and, you know, we got to work together. And how can we impact the industry together? And then bringing it all together, painting a picture of what that looks like, using descriptive language, you know, graphics if you want to, and really painting that picture. And once you have that put together, and this could be a 2-page document, this could be a 5-page document, it could be a PowerPoint presentation, it could be, you could have this put out on video. Now, and then you share with your team, your vendor, your customers, right? They need to know what that vision is. In fact, I think it's at Concourse, you walk in the front door, right? You've got your vision statement up on the wall. So you're proud of it. It's what your employees see. It's what your customers see. Now, you're not going to tell them maybe your financial goals, right? That's something that you're going to leave out of that for your executive team or whatever that might look like. But there's, you know, probably 80% of this, it can be shared with your vendors. It can be shared with your clients. It can be shared with your, you know, your mastermind group. It can be shared all around. And not only it helps us to verbalize it, but then it also helps us to solidify in our mind, hey, that is where I'm going. That is right. And get us through the tough days, man. I told Fernando, we're going to get this done. We're going to get this done. I can't go back on that. I verbalized it, right? I sent him a document that shows this is where we're going. I can't go back on that. And so it's so powerful if you take your time and put this together. And again, if I can throw this on a PDF and send this out, if somebody wants to shoot me an email, we can send this out to you. And it's just an exercise, right? It's that phase one, get all of your thoughts out. And then phase two is put it together in a way that you can present it to the people that's important, but it's as important for you as it is for everybody else. Does that make sense? So I think I can go back. I think that's, yep. Q&A. Any questions? And I'm not sure how the moderation works, but
Hey, I do have a question. So when a shop is engaging, or a shop owner, I should say, is engaging Transformers Institute, how do they, how do you take some of those materials? How do you take some of that process and expand it? Does that become is that typically a 2-month process? Is it a lifelong process? Is it a 2-week process? Tell me more about that.
that's a great question, John. It depends on the shop owner, and it depends what program they're in, right? So, you know, we have a top tier program where we have a coach that takes them. They meet weekly as a cohort of about 15 shop owners that are really dedicated to going multi-store, and then the coach meets with them individually on a weekly basis. And it's like they're hammering, right? We're getting budgets done. We're getting hiring done. We're getting pay plans done. We're getting SOPs done. We're looking for facilities, right? Now, I'm not going to lie, it's an expensive program and you got to apply to be in it, right? But those people are they're moving the needle hard. You got other people that maybe they're just subscribing to one of our videos online, right? And they're self-paced and they're doing it kind of that way. Maybe they're at that single store, and they've got themselves worked where they're not so much working on the business, or excuse me, in the business as they on the business, and they're taking this as much as they can. But it could be, a couple-year process to really get some of this stuff in place. So it really, and the people that invest in one-on-one coaching, right? They're moving, they tend to move faster because they have that level of accountability, and their coaches are holding them to the thing. So it's not a cookie cutter answer. We've seen people go from, kind of a mediocre, kind of a broken shop, and in 3 years they're on their 3rd shop. And then other people that are still in that single store and still dreaming, but really haven't moved the needle like they could, but they haven't, there's something we always say at Transformers, information is not transformation. So you can gather all the information, but if you don't put it to work. And when I hear somebody go, oh, I've been to this coaching company and this coaching company and this coaching company and this coaching company, like, okay, those are 4 pretty reputable places and you're still not doing $1 million a year. Like, what are you not doing? Why don't you look in the mirror and go, what are the fundamentals you have not put in place? And you probably heard from all 4 or 5 of these. What makes you think I'm going to be any better, right? There's no quote unquote silver bullet to this industry. It's honing in on the fundamentals and doing things right every time, how busy you are, how busy you're not. It's being a good leader, holding people accountable, not letting the tail wag the dog, right? All those things. So Fernando, anything you want to throw in there? Because Fernando talks to a lot of people that are talking about being a part of Transformers.
Yeah, man, Greg, thanks. You finally let me speak. I appreciate that. No, so first of all, great question, John. And I will tell you that I think here at Transformers, we take a holistic approach to how we help shop owners. We know that there's multiple ways that you can be successful in this industry, right? If you want to be a single shop operator and you want to build a business that takes care of you in the future, or that runs without you being plugged into it every day, and you want to we'll spend half of your time in Florida, we can help you with that, right? But if you want to also build a business like JR is doing, that that is going to you want to go multi-location, and what that means is beyond just generating wealth. It's more about providing more opportunities for your team, providing a better customer experience, and being more involved with the community, as JR mentioned, but ultimately helping our industry become more attractive for folks to do business with us, but also more attractive for the next generation of technicians, service advisors, and shop owners as well. So to answer your question, is we don't have a single one way that we help shop owners. I like to think of it as, we find where you're at, we come and meet you where you're at, and we help guide you to where you want to get to, whether that's 20 locations or a single location doing $4 or $5 million with a 20% net, we can help you with that, right? So kind of a holistic approach to the way we do it. And I will also tell you, being in a mastermind group, which is really the core, one of the core offerings that we have here at Transformers, it's really about having the right individuals in the group and then leveraging their collective knowledge and experience to make everyone better. So there is no end date to that, right? As you know, our industry is evolving and we all should be evolving. But the beauty of it is when you're in a mastermind group, as you're evolving, everyone else around you is as well. So then they start taking on bigger challenges, bigger opportunities, and together they continue to grow. So, I guess the only end to a program like that is if you decide to sell your business or, we'll just keep it on that. We'll keep it a little more positive, right? If you sell your business for a 10 multiplier and then you no longer need a mastermind group, that's really the only time where you're really done, learning, in my opinion. So.
Makes a lot of sense. JR, you've obviously benefited greatly from Transformers Institute. What's your take on there? And what would you say is what's the number one most important thing that you've gotten from working closely with Transformers and Greg and Fernando?
Well, definitely the networking of hanging around with people that are doing things that are bigger than what I'm doing. I outgrew some of my other coaching companies that I've been with, and being in a group of my Platinum 2 group where some of these guys are really in multiple businesses, they're thinking multi-state, they have creative financing ideas and connections, and talking to Greg and talking about tax strategy and all these things that in our world, it's so important, yet is at the level of my group, it's just not talked about in every corner. It is very, very hard to find friends and influencers that can teach you some of those very high level stuff. And that is what we need to keep growing, to have a different mindset, because even as much success as I have, we want to keep growing, and we need to emulate other people that are bigger than us. Otherwise, we kind of just stay by the wayside and think things are okay for us. So being inspired, I would say, is the biggest thing that I've learned.
Yeah, if I can add a little bit to that, John, if you allow me.
Please.
JR hit it on the nail on the head. It's mindset, right? And too many times the business owner's mindset, it's the one that's keeping the business from growing. But if you surround yourself with people that think bigger, and by the way, not only do they think bigger, but they're executing and you're able to see it. And oh, by the way, they're also willing to share their best practices and how they're doing it, then it becomes a lot easier. And then pretty soon you open up that mindset and you start thinking, hey, I can accomplish that, right? I gotta think bigger as well. And so it's really about, surrounding yourself with people that are not only thinking bigger, but are doing bigger and learning from them, right? This is about real world business practices, to the real world business, issues or opportunities that you're dealing with every day. And that's what makes this mastermind group so special, because it's really about having the right folks in the room and then truly leveraging them to make everyone better.
Right.
Oh, go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, look, I couldn't agree more. In my experience, if you want to be the big shot in the room and you want to hang out with everybody who's looking to learn from you all the time and whatnot, then you're going to, over time, probably lower your game. But if you want to raise your game, you got to be the little shot, right? You got to be the guy in the room who, yes, brings something to the table and has something that other people are going to learn from. But you got to surround yourself with people who have done a ton more than you have. And, at AutoVitals, we've been really fortunate being in business for, a dozen years or so. And we've seen shops at every level. We've worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of shops like JR. And, we've seen shops start in the beginning, and we have a good sense of, what it takes to get from a small single shop to a successful single shop, and from a, successful single shop possibly into a multi-shop, if that's the path you want to go down. And, we've gotten to see a lot of those best practices. So, as I tell you that, part of the reason that I love doing these webinars is I get to surround myself with big shots like you guys. 3 of the bigger shots in the industry that no doubt I've learned from, and I'll continue to learn from. And, I think with that, this is probably a great time to wrap up. We're coming up to the top of the hour. And everybody's got, everybody has contact information for folks here. And no doubt, please, audience, you should be following up and finding out how you could spend more time with these guys and learn from folks who have been there. And we'd like to do the same. We'd like to learn from you as well. So JR and Greg, Fernando, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was, time well spent, I think, on all fronts, and I know attendees will agree. And we look forward to, we'll get a copy of the video out to folks, and hopefully we can send out some highlights and contact information and whatnot. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for all your time and for all your insights.
You bet.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.